Good evening, everybody. Movie Fan 2002 here. Today is December 17th, 2021. This is the night. Spider-Man No Way Home. It is time. In just a little bit, I'm going to be heading over to the theater to watch the film. And I came prepared. I have my Spider-Man shirt on in honor for this moment. Yeah, I am just so hyped to watch this film. Pretty sure you are as well, judging by the people who have yet to see the movie, which is pretty much a lot at this point. So yeah, this movie is just going to be amazing. I'm so excited for it. Alright, so probably should head out the door and get going. Alright guys, I'm about to head over to AMC Theaters to watch Spider-Man No Way Home. I'll see you all when I get to the theater. Okay, I'm at the theater and I'm about to go inside. Man, I hope we get some insane reactions tonight. This is gonna be like a really big movie. Hope it's the best Spider-Man film ever.
That's so good.
Alright, we just walked out of seeing Spider-Man No Way Home. So Brooke, what did you think of the movie?
Best Spider-Man movie ever. Today.
Yeah. Alright, anyways, our review for Spider-Man No Way Home is going to begin right about now. This is Stan Lee. He was one of the greatest people who ever lived. However, he was legendary for one thing, and those are his comics. Throughout his lifetime, he created many of the greatest comics of many popular superheroes who would go on to become legends in their own rights. But there was just one that stood out all than the rest, especially for him and his fellow artist, Steve Ditko. In the early 1960s, Stan Lee saw a spider crawling up a wall when he was coming up with ideas for his next comic book character. When he saw that spider crawling up, he knew exactly what to do. Decided to make a character about a human who granted incredible abilities of a spider, where he'd be able to shoot webs at shooters and also stop bad guys. Thus leading to the creation of the character we all know today as...
Spider-Man, Spider-Man, does whatever a spider can. Spins a web any size, catches thieves just like flies. Look out, here comes the Spider-Man.
Ever since his first release in 1962, Spider-Man became one of the biggest characters in pop culture history, if not in superhero history as well. Not only was he such a magnificent character, but he also taught us with a great lesson: with great power comes great responsibility. Since then, we had numerous comics, merchandise, and even TV shows, from the original 1960s series into some of the more recent ones. But then some people were wondering, would Spider-Man get his own movie? The reason why I brought this up is because back in the 1970s, the year after the release of the original Star Wars, there was a release of Superman the movie, which became a great commercial hit and a box office success, making the first output that there can be movies based off comic book characters. And then the same thing happened with Batman in 1989, until he became a bit of an embarrassing joke with Batman and Robin, but that's for a different day. But anyways, Marvel started to take shape with this, with Blade in 1998, and then 2 years later with X-Men, which somewhat started this trend. But what about Spider-Man? Then came director Sam Raimi, and he decided to take shape with Sony Pictures and Columbia to create his first cinematic outing with the film that started it all with, Spider-Man. I mean, it's the title of the movie. I mean, you can see it right there. I mean, okay, you know what? Enough rambling about it. When the film came out in 2002, it was an immediate smash hit, as it bring the wall color to the big screen in a way like never before. It was so good that not only launched a couple of sequels, but it led to not one, but two reboots, with the second one being in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, as we've been anticipating ever since it first started back in 2008. Okay, I did the recap, now we can get to the actual review. Hey guys, Movie Fan 2002 here, and I'm here today to review arguably the most anticipated film of 2021, Spider-Man No Way Home. So Spider-Man No Way Home takes place after the end credits scene of Far From Home.
Everybody back to work!
No, not that one.
Got my shoes!
Spider-Man's real name is...
Yes, that one.
Spider-Man's name is Peter Parker. What the...
Yes, as you can tell, it turns out Spider-Man's identity is officially revealed to the public in the worst way possible. Now, where people think him as either a hero, where they don't believe what Mysterio thinks of when he sent that leak, because we saw what actually happened in Far From Home, sorry. Or people actually hate him and actually accuse him and like trying to arrest him, especially with J. Jonah Jameson. And this is not only causing them, this is also affecting with Ned and MJ, where they're not getting into the colleges they're hoping for, which is MIT, which is really disappointing. Just when he thinks all hope is lost, he decides to go to Doctor Strange to see if there's any way that he can help, undo what Mysterio did to make sure everyone can forget that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. He told them that there is a spell that they can use, so they decided to do it. Unfortunately, it comes with a price. Everyone is going to forget Peter Parker is Spider-Man. So then it comes to the moment where after he requests too many people in his life to remember who is that he remembers who is Spider-Man, who should know, it creates a rift that opens the portal to Ultimate Dimensions, leading for many of the villains of the Sam Raimi films and Mark Webb's Amazing Spider-Man movies to come in for one epic Spider-Man crossover event. In other words, you could say that this is pretty much the live-action Spider-Verse movie. Now, it's up to Tom Holland to bring the villains back in a way that might not be how Doctor Strange wants him to, and also learn on what it means to officially become Spider-Man. I know what you're thinking. Hold on, isn't he already Spider-Man? I would, but I feel like it's better for you guys to see the movie. And yes, guys, this is the spoiler-free review. I'll be doing a spoiler discussion sometime tomorrow night. Yeah, but for now, I want to get the spoiler-free review out. Now, I was really excited for this movie. I mean, come on, like after the end credit scene of Far From Home, of course I wanted to see what happened next. Although, of course, yes, we did have the whole clash with Sony and Marvel that did cause Spider-Man to be out of the MCU, but that was only just for a month, from August to September of 2019. But thankfully, things were able to work out, and they were able to create the movie. Now, I will admit, as we were getting closer to the release, I was getting a little bit nervous. Not with the movie itself, but I was concerned if critics weren't going to like this movie as much as people were going to. Why do I mean by that? Remember recently with Eternals? Yeah, I didn't want that to happen with this film. But, either way, I was still looking forward to the movie regardless. So, last night, my friend and I went to go see it. I avoided spoilers all week because I reserved my seats the day they came out. I was looking forward to this moment. So, after all the trailers, all the positive reactions that I've gained from critics and audiences, what were my thoughts on this ambitious work of Spider-Man? Oh my god. It was awesome! I'm not joking with you. It definitely lived up to the hype. I really enjoyed it. I did not know where to begin. Actually, okay, so how am I going to do this without going into spoilers? Well, I think I know where to start. I think the first thing that I'm really happy about this film and why it turned out to be amazing as it was is that it did everything of what made the first two Tom Holland Spider-Man movies, but made them even better. The first two films were fantastic in my opinion, but I feel like this one really upped its game a lot more, but because it shows us the more of the struggling with Peter Parker trying to live two different lives at the same time. We didn't see that in the previous two films, but in here we actually do, and it's not afraid to go emotional in many of the scenes. It really works and you get invested with these characters. I would love to explain more about it, but I feel like that would go into spoiler territory and it would get things pretty much on a hectic note. So I'm gonna save that for when I do the spoiler discussion of the movie. Now I know what you're thinking. Now with a movie like this, you think with all the whole villains from the previous films coming back, you think that means the story would be overstuffed, right? Actually, no, it's actually not. In here, it's actually worked very well. This leads to another great element. The fan service does not derail from the story. It keeps it at a much more steadier pace and does not get people irritated but still enjoying the experience. So that way, when they have a proper fan service, just like in Avengers Endgame, and with this film, you are impressed and they're not taking your attention away from it. This is how you do it. I might make another video about that, but I might save that for when the movie comes out on Blu-ray. As for the story itself, I will admit the first half was pretty good, but once the botched spell happens, which you're seeing right now, that's when things really start to kick in. When the villains come in and it's all insanity from up top. It goes from intense action sequences to many cool character moments for villains meeting each other for the first time, well, that is from the completely different universes, to, I think the last one I shouldn't save, but if you guys have heard about the rumor as well, I think some of you guys are gonna be happy that it's actually true. I won't say what I'm talking about, so I think it's best we save it for when the movie comes out.
Hello, Peter.
Of course, we also need some great performances in order to have the movie be really great as well. And this movie has fantastic performances. Of course, from the recurring actors and from the ones that we all know and love. Of course, there is Tom Holland back as Peter Parker / Spider-Man, which I gotta say, this is his best portrayal as the character yet. He did a fantastic job in this movie, and I really thought he did an amazing job here. Yeah, good job. It was Benedict Cumberbatch as Doctor Strange, which, to be fair, he's not in the movie that much, which is a semi-spoiler, but it doesn't really count because that doesn't talk about his scenes. Although he's not in the movie that much, I'm gonna give it a pass for here. Why? Because the next Marvel Cinematic Universe movie will be Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. So, it makes more sense for him to not be here for some portions of the movie. Going back to Spider-Man, he's no longer like a boy. I see him more as a man now. Like, he's now a young adult. He's really going through a really struggling position in his life, and this is really much his most emotional performances. There are some moments where he gets really emotional, and you really feel that way. It can even take his ending scenes at the end of Infinity War and Endgame to shame. I'm not kidding. Even though those scenes are also still sad. As for MJ and Ned, while they're still their usual selves, I still thought they were great, and they were also going through some struggling positions as well. Plus, I liked how they're still loving being with each other, and MJ and Peter's relationship is really great in here. A lot better now because we now fully see them as a couple. Jon Favreau and Marissa Tomei also did a good job as well. Marissa Tomei, actually, this is also her best portrayal as Aunt May yet. She actually really is somewhat of a badass here. Happy Hogan's also great. As always, it's always great to see Happy. And J.K. Simmons is back as J. Jonah Jameson, again, from the end credit scene of Far From Home, which is also great to see him as well. But of course, I now know what you're all thinking. What were my thoughts on seeing the returns of the villains? More specifically, did the actors who played them in their respective films, in the order of the films, in the order of when they were released, Willem Dafoe, Alfred Molina, Thomas Hayden Church, Rhys Ifans, I think that's his name, and Jamie Foxx all did their great job reprising their roles as Norman Osborn / Green Goblin, Dr. Otto Octavius / Dr. Octopus, or Doc Ock, Flint Marko / Sandman, Kurt Connor / The Lizard, and Max, I forgot what his last name was. Max Delcher, I think? And Max, aka Electro. Well, they're fantastic. I mean, they each did a good job. Personally, the standouts are pretty much the ones from the Sam Raimi trilogy. More specifically, Willem Dafoe and Alfred Molina. I'll touch upon the characters in a bit. I'm just talking about their performances. And I gotta say, Willem Dafoe and Alfred Molina did a great job. And I think Willem Dafoe pretty much upped his game here, even more than what he did with the original film. He's still going on a mentally unstable stuff. Still going mentally unstable, and he's having a hard time, like, being in this new universe. I'll explain more about that when I go into the spoiler discussion, then when I get to it tomorrow. But this is actually pretty important, and it really does feel crucial. And it feels heart-wrenching. It feels a bit sad for him. As for Otto Octavius, he's still as great as always. Now, for some of you are wondering, does he continue right where his last story left off? I shouldn't spoil it, but I'll go more into that tomorrow. But either way, it was so great to see him. So, yeah, pretty much the performances are great from everyone. But of course, the visuals are also amazing. I wouldn't say as visually amazing as Eternals. I mean, that could arguably be the best. That could arguably be the best looking MCU film alongside Doctor Strange. But the effects here are just outstanding. Even the costume designs for the outfits Spider-Man wears throughout the film are pretty good. Trust me, he wears a lot of suits in this movie. I would like to say which ones they are, but again, I'm going to save that for the spoiler discussions. It was just so cool. I like the new one that they advertised. I thought that looks pretty cool on him. Of course, this also leads to the action scenes, and they are incredible. My personal favorites are the fight, the fight on the bridge where Spider-Man fights Doc Ock, like his first appearance, the interdimensional fight with Doctor Strange, and the final battle, which I won't spoil. But either way, I thought all the action scenes were just amazing. But of course, we should also talk about the characters. And let me just say, they definitely delivered so much to this feature. Starting off with Spider-Man himself, Peter Parker is still dealing with his struggle with his identity, but this time it's taking to a worse effect now that his identity is revealed to the entire world. He wants to find a way to bring it back to normal even after what he did, and things are really getting hectic for him. Now it's getting worse to the point that maybe he has to make sacrifices, and even understanding what the point is. It really works very well for his arc, and it completes his homecoming arc, I think that's what I'm going to call it for this trilogy, in a satisfying way. As for MJ and Ned, like I said before, well, they are great supporting characters for Peter, and they actually help him during his struggle, during his time. And I feel like that actually works very well. And then, of course, you have the villains. As Otto Octavius is actually a much more depressed character in this feature. Well, more mentally unstable, especially with him continuing his arc from Spider-Man 2 somewhat, where he's going on a quest and trying to hunt him down. Well, not really, actually. While Sandman is still somewhat good. The Lizard is still in his lizard form and actually still cares about it. Electro is much better in this movie than he was in here. And as for Norman Osborn, well, let me tell you, he's really all disabled out, and you actually do feel for him. It is really that sad. Again, as for Doctor Strange, he's not really in the movie that much, but he's still really great for what he is. But now, without giving away too much, there are two other characters in the movie that also do make an appearance, but I think I shouldn't spoil it because let me just say, they are pretty much the big ones for this film, and it really shows very well. Also, one more thing I want to mention is that this movie is really emotional. Without giving away too much, the ending is gonna have you in tears, somewhat. But this is not the end of Spider-Man's adventure. Far from it, actually. Another thing I should also mention is that this movie, well, at least for when I went to go see it last night, had moments where the audience was cheering and going in excitement. I'll explain about those moments when I do the spoiler discussion video. Now, as for complaints, I would say that the mid-credit scene was kind of a bit disappointing. Well, not really, because it was still a great end credit scene, but it was just because of this certain character who we thought was going to be in the film, but actually it wasn't. But then again, I kind of would blame, it's kind of more of a problem with that movie than with this movie. Other than that, I can't think of a single issue with this film. I loved it from start to finish. There's nothing to critique here. But I just realized something. Do you want to know who the real target audience is? And why I love this film so much? And why I'm going to recommend it? The real target audience is not just MCU fans and Spider-Man fans and fans of the Sam Raimi trilogies, and heck, or even the Mark and the Amazing Spider-Man films, but also the Spider-Man fans who were born in the early 1990s, in the early 1990s or 2000s. Why? Because them who at least grew up with these films, like me, who was actually born in the year when the first Sam Raimi movie came out, will feel happy of what they were seeing and have a big smile on your face just with what you're witnessing. I'll explain more about it, why, in the spoiler discussion, but it was just so beautiful. So, to put it simply, Spider-Man No Way Home is an absolute must-watch of a film. Go see it on the big screen. yeah, definitely go see it in theaters. It is more than worth it. I'd say it's the movie that is fantastic for everybody. You're gonna love it. And even if you don't enjoy it, just still see it in theaters anyway. Just because at least if this is the hoping for return for movies in theaters, it was fantastic. Oh, and of course, stay for the end credit scenes at the end. Spider-Man No Way Home 100% gets a 10 out of 10. It was more than worth the wait. Oh, and there is one more thing I forgot to mention. This movie is actually a love letter to the live-action Spider-Man movies. Kind of like how Spider-Verse was like a love letter to Spider-Man himself. Or the legacy. Anyways, thank you all for watching this spoiler-free review. Hope you all enjoyed. Comment down below and let me know what you thought of the movie. And make it spoiler-free so that way for people who haven't seen the film yet, don't get spoiled. Anyways, till the next video comes, which will be my spoiler discussion review, hit that subscribe button below, like this video if you really enjoyed it. Until then, with great power comes great responsibility.